I'm ashamed to say this, but as soon as I opened the box, I rolled my eyes. After all, it was meant to be an anniversary present, not some other kind of gift. You could say that I didn't manage it well. My name is Cassandra, and I'm 34 years old. My spouse, Ryan, sat across from me with a hopeful expression on his face, as if he had just given me the moon. But it was a bracelet, not the moon, a wristband. It's just a silver object with a small charm. Nothing special, don't get me wrong, I don't want diamonds to fall from my wrist. But I did wish he would try harder for our 5th anniversary, something romantic, meaningful, and unforgettable. He inquired, "Do you like it?" And I could tell he was making a lot of effort to gauge my response. I attempted to fake a smile, but it was a complete failure. I answered, "Yeah, it's cute." But my tone was too obvious, the tone that implies, "I'm lying through my teeth is familiar to you." I felt a quick sense of guilt and frustration as his expression slumped. Although I didn't want to spoil the moment, I couldn't help but wonder why he constantly acts in this way. It's not like I'm subtle about my liking of fine things. Ryan is aware of that. After months of giving hints about a necklace I saw online, I end up with a bracelet that appears to have been purchased from a mall kiosk. I get how this sounds. The fact is, though, that Ryan and I have experienced a great deal this year. Since his hours at work were reduced, money has been tight. So I've been helping out wherever I can. Since I'm proud of my appearance, I've even skipped a few salon visits to save a little extra money, which is very significant to me. So, perhaps I was expecting a sign that he values what I've been doing. Is that really incorrect? I put the bracelet on the table and put it back in the box. I gave a flat thanks, but the harm was already done. Ryan sighed, a sigh that was half despair and half frustration. "You don't like it," he remarked. There was no question. I folded my arms. "It's not that I dislike it. I simply suggested that perhaps you would give it a little more consideration." He hardly ever yells at me, so I was taken aback when he said, "Cassie, we're broke. I can't exactly go all out right now. I believed that you would truly wear this. That's not the point." I retorted, "The effort is more important than the money." I could tell he was attempting to maintain his composure as his jaw tightened. "You didn't even ask me what I wanted. Work. Are you serious now? You have no idea how much effort I put into getting this for you. How many hours did I have to work just to make ends meet?" I said to myself. Halfway decent is right. And that's when it kicked off. "Cassie, you know what? You and I can't win. Nothing I do is ever sufficient. You're always focused on what you don't have instead of what you do." His voice was sharp now, cutting through me in a way that made my chest tighten. I got up from the table with my arms crossed and glared at him. "Maybe if you stepped up for once, I wouldn't have to point out what's missing." That struck a nerve. I knew the moment I said it, but I was too fired up to care. Ryan's face hardened, and he leaned back in his chair, staring at me as if he were daring me to repeat it. "You only care about if I can make you happy in the interim for once. God forbid you show me any concern." That silenced me for a moment, and I just stood there, staring at him, totally taken aback. He had never said anything like that to me before, and although we had argued many times, this time it felt different. As if something had broken between us and could never be repaired. A part of me expected him to follow me, to apologize and make amends as he usually does. But he stayed in the kitchen and I could hear him washing dishes. His movements loud and purposeful, as if he was trying to make a point. I was at a loss for words, so I just stormed off to the bedroom and slammed the door behind me. With my heart pounding, I collapsed onto the bed and gazed at the ceiling. I wanted to be furious with him for spoiling our anniversary, but I couldn't help but feel that perhaps I had gone too far. After all, wasn't it his fault that he didn't realize what I needed? The thought of all I'd given up for him kept coming to mind. I could have been with someone who was in control, someone who could truly give me the life I wanted, but instead I chose Ryan, and for what? A cheap bracelet and a fight that made me feel even more alone. I didn't get much sleep that night, and when I woke up in the morning, Ryan was gone, leaving his side of the bed untouched. The kitchen eerily quiet, and the bracelet still on the table where I'd left it, the little charm catching the morning light as if mocking me. I began to wonder if we'd finally reached the point of no return as I lay there in the dark. "Are we really going to let one fight ruin our anniversary?" I wrote him, ignoring it and reaching for my phone instead. It wasn't like Ryan to ignore me. Even when we were fighting, he's usually the one to calm down and come back around. eager to talk things out. However, this time, it felt different, as if he was finished. Hours passed with no reaction. How could he just walk out like that on our anniversary, no less? Who does that? I wasn't exactly gracious about the gift, but was that really enough to just walk out by noon? I was so frustrated that I began to replay everything from last night in my mind, turning it around until I was the victim. I needed someone to support me, so I called my best friend Heather, who answered the phone after the second ring. "What's wrong?" she asked in a worried voice. And I didn't hold back. "Ryan and I got into a heated argument last night after he gave me this inexpensive bracelet for our anniversary, and when I tried to discuss it with him, he blew up on me." I could tell that Heather was trying to think of a way to answer without upsetting me. Since she was silent for a while, "Okay," she started slowly. "What precisely did you say to him?" I hesitated. "I just told him that I thought he could have put in more effort. I mean, it's not about the money, you know. It's about showing that you care." "Right," Heather said, but her tone made it clear she wasn't totally on my side. "And how did he take that?" "He got defensive," I said. "He made it all about how hard he's working and how I'm not thankful. As if I should accept whatever scraps he throws my way." "Heather, it's not fair. I don't ask very much in return for all that I do for him." I could tell she was holding back what she truly wanted to say when she added, "Aha, look, Cass. I'm not saying you're wrong to feel disappointed, but maybe you could have handled it differently. Ryan has been under a lot of stress recently. He's stressed, and I don't want to hear it." I interrupted her. "How about me? While he sulks about his job, I'm the one holding everything together. He should at least let me know how much he values me." With a sigh, Heather said, "All right. But what will you do next? When he gets home, will you speak with him? If he even comes home," I said in a whisper. She didn't seem totally sure, but she did say, "Of course he'll come home. Perhaps you should take a breather before speaking to him. Consider what you truly want to convey. Everyone constantly acts like Ryan is some saint because he's trying his hardest. But what about me? I'm trying too. I've given so much to keep our lives going smoothly, and no one gives me credit for that." I hung up feeling more furious than reassured. Heather didn't get it. No one did. I drove to his office, a small insurance agency downtown where he's been working since college, but when I arrived, his car wasn't in the parking lot. I called him again, but it went straight to voicemail, and then I realized he wasn't there. By late afternoon, I still hadn't heard from him, and my anxiety began to creep in. But I buried it under my anger. I was dazed as I drove home, wondering if he was at a friend's house, a bar, or someplace else. The idea of him being somewhere else made my stomach turn. But I forced myself to ignore it because Ryan wasn't like that. He wasn't the kind to cheat or flee, at least not that's what I thought he was. His car was in the driveway when I arrived home. A moment of relief was followed by a new wave of rage, and I rushed into the living room, prepared to confront him. But the words caught in my throat as I entered. Ryan was sitting on the couch, his head in his hands, and he looked more defeated than I had ever seen him. I didn't even look up when I entered the house, so I slammed my bag onto the coffee table and demanded, "Where the hell have you been?" He looked up at last, his eyes bloodshot and exhausted. "I needed some time to think," he said flatly. "Think about what? How can I avoid your wife?" I shot back. "On our anniversary. How can you make me feel so bad?" With a sour grin pulling at his lips, Ryan shook his head and said, "Cassie, you just don't get it? It has nothing to do with the jewelry. It has nothing to do with the anniversary. It concerns us." His remarks were like a kick to the gut. "We're not working anymore." "What are you talking about?" "We are, of course, working. This isn't the worst quarrel we've had, have we?" "Because it doesn't feel like it," he murmured in a weary, quiet voice. "It seems like nothing I do will ever be sufficient for you. You don't want me to strive to show you that I care. I'm not the kind of person you're looking for, someone who can give you everything. I never have been." I opened my mouth to argue, but nothing came out because deep down I knew he was right. I did want more than he could give, more than he'd ever be able to give. But wasn't that his problem? Not mine. "I just need you to try harder," I said finally, my voice trembling. Ryan laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was bitter and cold. "Try harder, Cassie. All you give me in return for my years of striving is a glance that makes me seem like a failure. Perhaps I wouldn't have to if you weren't such a letdown," I shouted before I could stop myself. His face went blank, and in that moment, I knew I'd crossed a line. He stood up, grabbed his keys, and looked at me with an expression I'll never forget. It wasn't anger or sadness, it was resignation. "I'll be back for my stuff," he said quietly. And then he was gone. When Ryan walked out the door, I stood there in stunned silence. The nerve of him to leave me like that, as if I was the problem. But the shock didn't last long, it quickly turned into rage. How dare he act like I'm the one who's been dragging this marriage down? After everything I've put up with? I spent the rest of the evening packing the house, my thoughts spiraling out of control. He hadn't come home yet, and the longer he stayed away, the more furious I got. I started thinking about all the times I'd let him off the hook, all the excuses I'd made for him to friends and family. And this is how he repays me, running off like some drama queen just because I told the truth. But underneath the anger, something else was creeping in, panic. Ryan might be broke. But if he wanted to divorce me, I'd be screwed. I'm not blind to how things work. If we split up, I wouldn't get much. He doesn't have a lot of money, no hidden savings account, and no family trust to fall back on. The thought of trying to survive on my own, paying bills, and working some dead-end job just to keep a roof over my head made my stomach turn. The idea of being single again was even worse. It's not like I'm 22 and can bounce back from a failed marriage with a fresh start. I'm 34, and while I still look good, I've made sure of that. I know how the world works. It's harder to find someone new at my age, especially someone who can give me the life I deserve. Getting divorced wasn't an option, not for me. I needed a plan, and I needed it fast. If Ryan thought he could just walk out and leave me hanging, he had another thing coming. He wasn't going anywhere, not if I had anything to say about it. Even though I wasn't really sorry, why should I be? He's the one who initiated all of this by being so weak and pathetic. I knew Ryan well enough to know he'd fall for it. He always does. By the following morning, I had put on my game face and decided to pretend to be the remorseful wife just long enough to get him back under control. His clothes were wrinkled, and there was a tension in his shoulders that told me he was about to snap. Good, that meant he was vulnerable. I waited until he got home, which wasn't until late afternoon. He looked tired, as if he hadn't slept all night. I softened my expression as soon as he walked through the door, making sure to look just the right amount of hurt and regretful. "Ryan," I whispered softly as I moved to approach him. "Want to talk?" He gave me a weary expression, as if he wasn't sure if he should flee or stay. "What's there to discuss?" His voice was flat as he asked. I remarked in a low, tremulous voice, "I feel terrible about how things went down. I didn't mean to hurt you. I simply took it out on you because I was so overwhelmed. I'm so sorry." Clearly taken by surprise, Ryan blinked. "You're sorry?" He said it again, as if he wasn't convinced. I forced myself to seem honest as I answered, "Yes," acknowledging that I've been harsh with you lately, which is unfair. "Ryan, you are loved. I don't want one argument to cause us to split up. Could we just start over, please?" I thought it was working when I reached out to touch his arm. He gave me a look that said he wanted to believe me and forgive me. But then his face stiffened and he withdrew. Normally, Ryan would have given in by now. He's always been too sensitive for his own good, but this time he wasn't buying it. "You don't mean that," he replied in a chilly tone. "You're just saying what you think I want to hear." "What are you discussing?" Trying to seem wounded, I said, "Of course I mean it." "No, you don't," he said, shaking his head. "Cassie, you're not sorry. You've never expressed regret. You simply don't want to face the repercussions of your behavior." "That's not true," I murmured, my voice shaking just enough to seem genuine, despite my heart beating. "I love you, Ryan. I'm attempting to resolve this, are you? Because it seems like you only care about yourself." He lashed back. "Cassie, you don't respect me." He had never spoken to me like that before, and it hurt in a way I wasn't expecting. So for a second I didn't know what to say. Then the panic struck again, and I knew I had to double down. He could leave me. He was wrong. I'd fight him tooth and nail if I had to. "Ryan, please," I said, my voice breaking. "Don't do this. This is something we can resolve." When he finally sighed and shook his head, he murmured softly, "I don't know if I can do this anymore. I'll stay for now, but things have to change." He had been staring at me for a long time, as if he was trying to decide whether I was worth the effort. For now, though, I had to play nice. Let him think he was in control. Let him think I was willing to change, but deep down I knew the truth. I no longer respected him, not as a husband, not as a man. And the only reason I was staying in this marriage was because I didn't have a better op. Tion. I nodded, feigning agreement, but I was already planning my next move. If he thought I was going to let him dictate the terms of our marriage, he had another thing coming. I wasn't going to let him leave me. And I wasn't going to let him take what little stability I had left for the next few weeks. Ryan hardly looked at me. The house was tense, the air heavy with things we weren't saying. He went to work, came home, ate in silence, and slept on the couch. I tried to be the apologetic wife as long as I could, but it didn't work. He was becoming more and more distant, and the truth hit me like a brick wall. It didn't take long for me to realize that he was done, and no amount of manipulation or phony apologies could make him regret his choice. If I couldn't keep him, I'd make sure he regretted every moment of his decision. Are we even going to talk about this, Ryan, or are you just going to keep acting like I'm not here? I asked one evening after we had been silent for a while. He didn't even raise his gaze from the television. Cassie, what's there to discuss? I laughed and said, oh, so now I'm the problem? You don't want to change. And I can't live like this anymore. It was you who left and concluded that this marriage wasn't worth preserving. Cassie, I've been fighting for this marriage since the day we said I do. You're the one who stopped caring, he said, turning to face me with a melancholy in his eyes that unnerved me. The words hung in the air, and for a moment I thought I might cry, but instead of sadness, I felt rage bubbling up. He wasn't supposed to agree. He was supposed to beg me to stay, to try harder, to fight for us, but he didn't. All you see me as is a paycheck that's not big enough for you. That stung, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I threw my hands up in frustration. Fine, if that's how you feel, then maybe we should just call it quits. Great, I said. I'll call a lawyer tomorrow. He nodded as if he had already come to terms with it. Do what you need to do. The divorce process was harsh, made worse by the fact that I went into it with the sole intention of forcing him to pay. I wanted everything, including the house, the car, and any savings he had left. The lawyer I hired told me there wasn't much to take, but I didn't care. If I couldn't drain his wallet, I'd drain his soul. I even found myself wishing we had a child just to extract child support from him. Ryan, on the other hand, was heartbroken and didn't argue with me about most of it, which only made me angrier. It felt like he was giving up, like he was happy to give up everything just to get away from me. And maybe he was. He had always been too soft, too willing to take the high road, and it made me sick. By the time the papers were signed, I had managed to get the house and some spousal support, but it wasn't nearly as much as I'd hoped for, and he had been wise enough to protect what little assets he had left. Nevertheless, I felt like I had won, as if I had taught him a lesson. The next few weeks were unbearable. Ryan stayed, as he had promised, but it was different. He was guarded, distant, and hardly spoke to me unless it was absolutely necessary. The tension was suffocating, and it was clear that neither of us was happy. I kept trying to patch things up, but not because I wanted to save the marriage, not really. I just didn't want to deal with the fallout of a divorce. The idea of losing what little stability I had, of having to fend for myself, frightened me. I wasn't built for that kind of life. He was pulling away, leaving me to clean up the mess he'd made of our lives, and the more I thought about it, the more I resented him for even considering leaving. What kind of man deserts his wife because things get tough? If he truly loved me as he claimed to, he would stay and work things out. I eventually had it one evening after yet another quiet dinner. Are we going to discuss this? Or are you just going to sit there and pout forever? There's nothing to talk about, Cassie, I yelled, slamming my fork down on the table. Ryan didn't even bat an eye, just staring at me with a blank expression. This isn't working, as we both know. With a sarcastic tone, I crossed my arms and said, oh, so you're the victim now? I'm not trying to play the victim, he said, rubbing his temples. Poor Ryan, stuck with the wife who dared to have expectations. I'm attempting to be truthful. You are aware that neither of us has been happy in our marriage for a long time, he continued. You don't respect me, even though I opened my mouth to protest. I am not important to you, Cassie. You worry about what I can provide you or what you believe I ought to give you, and I'm reaching my breaking point. I simply cannot. His words struck me more strongly than I had anticipated. But not because they were false. I didn't respect him, and I didn't care about him the way he likely wanted me to. Instead, I cared about what he stood for: stability, security, and someone to point the finger at when things didn't go my way. However, Hearing him say it aloud made it real, and that alarmed me. I questioned, my voice trembling with rage. So? What, you're just going to leave? You're going to throw away everything we've built together? He shot back, what have we built, Cassie? Debt, resentment. I've tried to make you happy for years, and nothing I do is ever enough. I'm tired. I tried to think of something, anything, to keep him here, but all I could feel was desperation. The finality in his voice made me fear because if he left, I would have nothing, no house, no money, no safety net. I'll take everything, Ryan, everything. I wish we had a child so I could take even more. Okay, I snapped. If you want a divorce, go ahead. But don't think for a second that I'll make it easy for you. That's who you are, isn't it? He replied softly. It's not enough to ruin us. You have to destroy me too. His face contorted in disdain, and for the first time, I watched the love he had once felt for me entirely vanish. You know what? Do whatever you want, Cassie. I don't care anymore. I fought for the house, for spousal support, for anything I could get my hands on, but Ryan didn't have much to start with. And by the end of it, I had just enough to keep myself afloat. The divorce process was brutal, just like I said it would be. I was sitting in my small apartment, scrolling through Facebook 6 months after the divorce was finalized, when I came across a picture of Ryan grinning like I hadn't seen him smile in years, with a woman who looked like she had just stepped off a magazine cover. She was stunning, with long blonde hair, a flawless smile, and a figure that made my stomach turn. They were holding hands at some fancy restaurant and hiking in the mountains, and they looked happier than I ever imagined Ryan could be. It didn't make sense. How could he move on so quickly and with someone like her? What did she see in him that I didn't? I clicked on her profile and began scrolling through her photos, my blood boiling with each one. Ryan had flaws, yes, but he had loved me. I had been the one who couldn't see it, who couldn't appreciate it. And now he was giving that love to someone else, someone who probably deserved it more than I ever did. I tried to tell myself that she was probably just like me, fooled by his nice guy act, thinking he was something he wasn't. It came to me like a ton of bricks. I had lost everything, even the marriage. Ryan had moved on and found happiness while I was left here, lonely and resentful, browsing social media like some helpless teenager. This wasn't how my life was supposed to go. I wasn't supposed to wind up in a small apartment working a job I detested just to make ends meet. I wasn't supposed to be alone, but this was my reality. And for the first time, I had no one to blame but myself. I closed my laptop and stared at the ceiling, feeling the weight of it all falling down on me.